Yo ninjas and Kaio, welcome to the V-Flare tutorial. Before trying this move, you need to have a very solid flare and a nice V-kick. I made some tutorials about these moves, check out the links in the description. If you need more help for your power moves or your breaking in general, you can check out my Patreon, link in the description. And also, if you're interested, check out my merch, also link in the description. The V-flare requires more flexibility than a normal flare. The two most important exercises are this one for your legs, flexibility. Try to go as deep as possible. If you can touch your legs with your forehead, it's the best. This one is gonna be very important for the V-flare because in the V-flare your legs are very close to your face. So you need to have this flexibility. The second exercise is this one here. From here, you just go forward, you slide forward until you feel the stretch on your shoulders. The more you can go low with this exercise, the better it is for your V-flare. Because for the V-flare, the more you lift up your hips like this, the better it will look like. Instead, in a normal flare, you can even be with the hips low, like this. But if you stay with the hips low, like this, in the V-flare, it will not look good. You should really be able to stay up with your hips. These two stretches are the same that you need for the V-kick and also for the mana. The mana is like a V-sit but with the hips higher. It's way harder than a V-kick and also than a V-sit. You don't need it for the V-flare, but if you can do a mana and also a flare, the V-flare will be very easy for you. Another exercise that you could do for your shoulders is with a stick. You grab it on the back with your hands facing forward, like this. You grab the stick in this way. You keep your arms straight, so don't bend your arms like this or just one like this or like this, but keep them straight and go over like this. And if you feel comfortable with this, just go closer and closer and closer with your hands like this. Like this I cannot do it, I'm not so flexible, but kind of like this is still a good start. If you are very good in this exercise already, you can even add a little bit of weight on the stick, so you will use more your muscles that are the same muscles that you use to push your hips up during the V-flare. It's hard, so don't do it if you cannot even do it properly with a stick without any weight. If it feels good, you can try to add some very small weights to the stick and then increase slowly. How to start a V-flare? There are two main different approaches. The first one, you gradually try to transform your normal flare into a V-flare. To do it, when you do flares, just try to close gradually your legs, so don't close them immediately. So first, try to do a flare with your legs kind of like this, a little bit closer, straight but closed. Then, when you get comfortable, try to do a flare with your legs like this, then with your legs like this, and gradually close them more and more and more and more. This is the first approach. But in this tutorial, I'm going to teach you another approach that for me is more interesting and it makes you learn the V-flare, in my opinion, a little bit quicker. And we're going to start with a V-kick. You want to do a V-kick by landing on one arm first and then on the second arm. So instead then going from here, jumping and going with both hands together like this. In my case, I do the flare clockwise. So I'm going to start with the right arm because when I start flare, I start with the right arm. So I want to do a V-kick, but I want to do with my arms 1 and 2. And then I want to lift up my right arm first and the left arm second. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's not 1, 2, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4. In this way, with your arms, you're gonna mimic the movement of a flare, but instead you're gonna do a V-kick. So at first, it will look something like this. I show it from the other side, from here. So as you can see, I lean right, left, right, left. Try this exercise many times, very many times. When you feel comfortable with this exercise, you should add a little bit more rotation to make it look a little bit more like a flare. To do it, instead than kicking your legs to the back and then to the front, you want to kick them a little bit on this side first, and then when you push them out, kick them to the other side. Because your flare starts from here and then goes here. So the same thing with the V-kick. You should start a little bit diagonally with your legs like this and then bounce them to the other direction. So 1, 2, 1 and 2 in this direction. And the hands are doing the same movement as before. So now I'm gonna start in this direction and I try to kick the legs in this direction here to jump off the V kick. I'm kicking the legs toward the other side. One more time. This was the second step. Third step, do the same thing, but try to add even more rotation. And so you're gonna try to mimic one full round of flare, and you're gonna end up to the back position of a flare. So with your legs kind of like this, or like this, and with your body forward. So from a V kick, you're not gonna land like this, but you're gonna land like this, or like this. Kind of like you're ending up one round of a flare. To do it, try to add a little bit of momentum with your hips and do the same movement that you do during a flare in this V kick. Don't kick just your legs up like this, but try to do this a little bit. It will look something like this. One more time. Last step to do one round of V flare. Right now we're gonna start in a different position. If you started the V kick in this position first, now you wanna start the V kick with your right leg a little bit backwards. So like this. Try to do the same movement but by starting in this way. Why in this position? Because when you do a normal flare, this leg is more backwards and you do this movement. Now you're gonna try to mimic the same movement from here. So you don't wanna do a full circle like a flare, so from here doing this, but instead you're gonna go more up, but you're still gonna use a little bit of the flare momentum. So the same dynamic as a flare, like this. If you cannot do it, just do a normal V kick from this position, like this. Slowly increase the momentum, kind of like this. And you can start even from here or from here when you feel ready. So just changing your start step by step. First from here, then from here, and then a little bit more backwards, like this. And then, if you feel ready, from here. When you start from here, you don't have to think it like you want to do a flare, but more like you want to do a V kick from here. Because if you think about doing a flare from here, you're gonna end up doing something like this. But this thing here looks too much like a normal flare and not so much like a V flare. And I see many people doing that mistake because they just want to do a normal flare but with their legs more up and close to their face. Instead, you have to imagine it like you want to do a V kick from this position. So from here, I don't want to do a flare, but I want to do a V kick. I'm gonna try. You see the difference? So the first that is wrong is this thing here. That is kind of like a flare with your legs very high. The second is more like a V kick, so just think about doing a V kick from here. If you followed all these steps, now you should be able to do one round of V flare. Before attempting more rounds, just try to improve this first round that you did to make it higher and smoother. And you should feel very comfortable and very high when you do it. So now you can start like a normal flare, you can start it the same way, but try to do it very high. And remember, don't think about it like a normal flare, but try to think about it more like a V kick. So you have to kick your legs up and bounce them off. Another thing that could help you to be closer with your legs and not wide like a flare. When you start, instead of kicking your legs like this, like a flare, this leg that swings should go up and should go like this. Immediately on the side, not on the front, not when you're here, but when you start on the side. So when you start on the side, you should be able to do this already, to be in the correct position. If you try to close your legs here when you are in the front, it's already too late because you already started the swing of your legs and your legs are spread and open and it's gonna be harder to close them. Instead, if you start immediately with your legs like this and not wide like this, like a normal flare, if you start immediately with your legs closed, it's gonna be easier to keep the legs in the correct position. If you really wanna master this concept and if you wanna challenge yourself, you can even start to cross your legs. When you kick the right leg, if you spin clockwise, you should cross it like this, and then from here, doing a V flare like this. So in this way, you're gonna immediately start with your legs crossed. And you have no excuses, you cannot open your legs. And just do one round with your legs crossed. It's gonna be very hard to do multiple rounds like this. I cannot do it. Actually, I can do only one round, but it's gonna be a very useful exercise. So first, just try the V flare one round, but make it high and make it like a V kick, like this. One more time. Then, if you want, try it with your legs crossed, like this. One more time. So right now, when we did the first round of V flare, when we were on the front with our legs like this, we were bouncing the legs off to the floor. So kind of like jumping off and coming back to your feet like this. This time, to continue with the momentum, you want to bounce your legs up, but try to hold them up, maintain them up. So you don't want to do this, but you want to do this. From here, bounce them up. If you do it correctly, you should be able to do one full round of V flare and almost going to the second round, kind of like this. One more time. Now that you are able to arrive in the back, you have two options. One, the easiest one, you can open your legs a little bit more on the back, because it's going to be very challenging, very hard to maintain the legs in the V kick position all the time. So there are basically two ways to do the V flare. One, you close your legs only when you are in the front and on the side, but then when you go on the back, you open your legs and then you close them again. You open, you close, you open and you close. This is the easiest method to do the V flare, and I recommend to learn this way first. It's gonna be easier. When you master this way, just try to hold the legs closed even in the back. It's gonna be very challenging, very hard, but if you can do the first one, you will be also able to learn the second one. It just requires more practice. If you wanna try directly the second way, the hardest way, you should be able to go to the back, and when you arrive in the back, arrive kind of like this and hold your legs very close together. It's very hard, but just try this exercise. Do one round of flare and then try to hold the position a little bit and try to control your legs close to each other. So now, last step, just try to continue the V flare and do multiple rounds. To do it, when you are in the back, you should do the same thing that you did when you started the flare. So from here, when you start, you want to close your legs immediately. You should try to do the same thing after one round of V flare. So from here, from the back, even if you open your legs, then when you go to the front and when you shift the weight on the right arm, immediately you should try to close more your legs. Then from here you can bounce them and open them again, but then when you enter the round, try to close them again. Try only 2 rounds first, so you will focus more on the form, because if you try immediately multiple rounds, like 3, 4, 5 rounds or even more, your form probably will not look so good, because you're gonna try to do a normal flare and open your legs. But just try 2 rounds, but try to really control your legs. After mastering 2 very clean rounds, try to add 1 more round, and so on and so on. If you want, you can even try the other approach, so just do a normal flare and do multiple rounds and try to close gradually your legs. In my opinion, it's gonna be harder. I really hope this tutorial was useful for you. If you need more help, check out my Patreon link in the description, and see you next time with a new tutorial. Yo ninjas!